Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Today is going to be amazing. I have one of the most amazing people ever, and I say ever, to come on the show. She is the epitome of what resiliency is about. So I can't wait to be able to chat. And if you guys wait till the end, we're actually going to talk to you about how to learn how to be omnipresent, especially on LinkedIn, because that's where you guys know I do most of my damage. So, Brandy, welcome to the show. We finally got this together, and I want to thank you and your partners and your assistants for finally putting this together.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I love talking about this. I could talk about it every day of my life.
I love it. So, my first question is, because if I don't ask the question, I have a traumatic brain injury. I'll forget. That's why I write everything down. What is your definition of resiliency?
I love that. I love this question. I would say, obviously, I think everyone needs to define it. For me personally, the definition is just knowing that I possess everything I need to get back up every time I fall down. Um, Everyone knows, a lot of people know my story at this point. I have seriously fallen about as low as you can go and lost everything at one point. And coming back from that finally showed me what true resiliency is. And it's just knowing that you don't need other people. You don't need someone to come save you. You just need to know that you possess everything, and you've just got to harness that power and just keep going after it, keep getting back up.
And I love that. And people know my story. I'm a recovering addict and alcoholic. I've lost everything 3 times already, got it all back. Plus, now I got a beautiful, amazing bride, beautiful children, a business. So I always say that your past does not dictate your future. But like my mentor, Ed Milet, says, everything happens for you, nothing happens to you, and everything's a teachable moment. So let's hop right into it, because if people seen you right now, they'd see the successful person, successful business, successful life, but it wasn't always that way. So let's get in DeLorean, hop back in the Wayback Machine. Tell us a little bit about you, where you come from, and how you became the force that you are today.
Yeah, so definitely a long story. For some reason, I've always had the entrepreneur kind of bug instilled in me, and I don't know why. I grew up in a very small town in Alabama. And when I say small town, there was one caution light. So you had to drive a good 30, 45 minutes to an hour to get to anything. But my first job was as early as probably 10 or 11. We just always figured out how to make money because around there, all the adults got the job. And I think maybe that's where I got the bug to be an entrepreneur, to be my own boss. And I feel like I just always was really good at sales. I'll thank my uncle for that one. Remind me to tell you the story about the grizzly, the owl, the parrot, and the koala, because that, for anybody in sales or they don't think they can sell, that's a great story. So I left right after high school, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I know a lot of people think they know what they want to do, but I really didn't. I feel like I floated around. And somehow I stumbled into fitness and wellness. And I think I really did it because I watched all the people in my family really suffering from preventable diseases and, not feeling well all the time. And I really wanted to live my life. So I got into it and I loved it. I became very passionate. I spent 17 years as a fitness, wellness, and nutritional professional helping people. And one of the things, once again, at selling, I was really good. But I think it was because what I realized is that we're all hope dealers. I always remind everybody that when we're selling, you're a hope dealer, right? You think you're selling this thing and you're not sure if someone's going to want it, but everyone wants hope. Everyone wants to be able to grasp hope and hold it in their hand and know that it's possible. And when you understand that, you can really sell what you have. And if you don't sell it, someone else will. And I realized that. And I was very hungry. So I never had a problem, with that. And so when I started my first business, doing personal training, doing in-home personal training, did really well with that. And then kind of moved on. And then I got a big surprise when I got pregnant with my son. I was already 36 at that time, and I didn't think I was going to have children. And so just going through all the things that I went through, I wanted to make sure that I could be there. I felt like, grew up without a dad, just with my mom. I wanted to make sure that I could really be there for my kiddos. But when you work a 9 to 5, not knocking that, you really can't be there. I mean, you're leaving at 6 in the morning, you're coming home at 6 at night, all the things. And so I kind of built this life to do that. And then along the way, I got married to my daughter's dad, went through a big kind of a traumatic divorce, honestly. And in the process, because I'd started a wellness center, that's when I really learned what resiliency was. So when my marriage failed, I lost that. I lost my house. I was evicted. I didn't just lose it. I was evicted from my house. I lost my business. I was kicked out of the building. I lost everything. And so I had to start from scratch. And then you can imagine having an infant and a 3-year-old at the time, having to do all that. It was a flip flop. And so to be honest, I'm not going to act like I had it all together and I went out and I just crushed it. It took me many years. In the first 2 years, I kind of checked out. It was a big emotional toll on me. And I was just kind of floating around. I can't even remember a lot of it because that's how out of it I was. I just was in that fight or flight mode, survival mode. I've got to put food on the table for my kids. Thank God for friends and family at the time. And when I finally started to come back, that's when I started the business that I've had for 7 years, which is the Phoenix Factor. And I named it the Phoenix Factor for the exact reason that to remind myself every single day to burn through my challenges and rise up from the ashes, no matter what it takes to just keep going. And it's been an incredible journey since then. And my kids are now 11 and 15 and they're thriving and they're doing well. And so I'm just really excited about helping people understand that it's not all the things you think are in your way. It's not all the excuses that you're putting in your way. You're in your way and you can burn through it and rise up every single time.
I love it. Now, I don't know if you noticed or not, but I was in the fitness industry for over 32 years.
I didn't
I
know
was
that.
with, I was with GNC for over 30 years. Worked with several Mr. and Mrs. Olympias, and I've been following you over 20 years. I've known about you
Oh, wow.
from the fitness industry because, as we all know, the fitness industry is really big, but it's really small.
Oh,
And,
very true.
and reputations go everywhere. So, like I said, this is a pleasure for me that I actually get to finally talk to you after 20 years. So I just
That's
wanted to say
amazing.
I just want to say thank you. But let's talk about it because um, I've known a lot of people in the fitness industry. They're no longer here. And I've had several bodybuilders, Franco Santoriello, a lot of other people that have come on. It's a very seedy business. A lot of people, they look great on the outside. I mean, on the outside, but struggling on the inside, eating disorders, alcoholism, drug addiction. So it's a very fickle kind of business. So let's talk about that a little bit because you could look great on the outside, but when you're struggling on the inside, and you have somebody that was in the Mr. Olympia 2 years ago jumping out of windows, there's a reason why that they're struggling today. And that's why we need to talk to them because everybody needs a phoenix in their life, and everybody has a comeback story in them. So I want
Yeah.
to talk about that a little bit about that because a lot of people think, oh, they look great on magazine covers. Yeah, but Franco was shooting up in the bathroom during the magazine cover. So
Yeah.
talk about that. About the fitness industry not being so fit mentally and spiritually.
Yeah, I can definitely touch on this. I did my first figure competition. Gosh, I think I was 31 when I did that, and I'm 51 now, so 20 years ago. But at the time, I was in Dallas. I did the Linda Murray Classic, and I was actually working as a trainer at Gold's Gym in Arlington, Texas, right outside of Dallas. So Ronnie Coleman actually came into that gym all the time, and Warren Branch, and I mean, lots and lots of people. Yeah. So one of the things I would say, and I see it now, I feel like when you're in the business, you can really start to see it, whether you even know the person. But I was at the most unhealthiest. I mean, watching everything I ate was definitely a mental thing. I definitely developed body dysmorphia after the competition because it's just not normal to be that lean. And then I felt like I was such a good I know I was a good trainer up to that point, and I really had to work on that between after the competition. By the way, I never competed again because I did recognize how unhealthy it was for me, and that's not what I wanted to teach other women. So the discipline that comes along with it, I think, is where you get the high. Like when you realize, like, man, I really did this, and I think that's where you get that natural high. But there's other ways to discipline yourselves and get that gratification that you've done something for yourself. But all the supplements we are taking, and a lot of them are illegal, as we know, and they're completely damaging your body. When your body begins to get damaged, your mind is going to go with it at some point if it hasn't already. And then, the mental state, just appearing to be this person wearing a mask every day. And as you said, a lot of people are doing this because they're not happy with themselves. So I would rather have a little extra fluff like I do right now at 51 and be happy. And I'm still healthy and I still, focus on those things. But in the industry, the two big things that scare me these days, I think, are that you have someone that comes up and you have a lot of younger people that look up to this person. So they're going to believe everything that person tells them. They're going to eat it up like it's dessert on a plate and not really understanding what it's going to do for them. And the second thing is understanding there is literally not one cookie cutter thing out there that we can all do. So if you're going to someone for coaching, physical coaching, for fitness, for bodybuilding, even in business, I'm like, make sure that you really take the time to research them and make sure it really is for you. And you're not just doing it because you want to look like them. You're an individual. It's never going to happen. You have your own body, you have your own mind, you have your own heart. So you really got to focus on it from that standpoint.
All right, so I want to dig really deep into this because I see fitness gurus and then I see business gurus, and they're all doing the same exact thing. So I want to hop into that real quick. But before we do, I want to thank our sponsors. As you guys know, I love my female CEOs. One of my favorite CEOs, her name is Andrea Kolank. She happens to be my cousin, so I love her so much. But she has a station here in New Jersey where if your vehicle is broke, they're not exactly the cheapest, but once they fix it once, it's fixed. My dad always said, he came off the boat from Italy. He said, you need a good accountant, a good lawyer, and a good mechanic. So if you could find a good mechanic in New Jersey, they are it. And they'll do the job right the first time because I love you. Also, if you're in Jersey, Brandy, if you ever come to New Jersey and if you love Italian food, you got to check out Muriel's Italian Trattoria. Her mom actually came off the boat from Italy. So
Oh, wow.
everything is made homemade and with love. So if you're in New Jersey, you definitely got to check out Muriel's Trattoria. So let me ask you a question, Brandy, because like I said, I know a lot of so-called physique Mr. Olympians, and they charge like $300 for you to get a cookie cutter and don't even know you. I could be 500 pounds. I could be 130 pounds. Everybody gets the same meal plan. Everybody gets the same supplementation. But I'm also seeing it in business. Like I'm on LinkedIn, and I think we got like almost 30,000 connections. Every day I'm getting, hey, let me help your business. And I'm like, you don't even know my business. How can you help me if you don't even know who I am? So talk to us a little bit about the fake gurus out there.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty easy to spot from just that. I mean, I get it. I build automations for clients as well. So a lot of those messages that we're getting are automated and they're coming, but really just on the foundational level for that business owner to just blast those messages out. What are they really looking for? Are they really looking to help your business? LinkedIn, a lot of people don't understand, is truly one of the best platforms to build a relationship when it comes to your business. I've always loved LinkedIn. And I think the thing that we have to remember is, once again, go look at their content, go look at to see if people are engaging with them, go look at their recommendations, a website and reviews on a website, reviews on Google can be fake. But let me tell you what can't be faked. You can't fake the recommendations on LinkedIn. You can't really fake them on Facebook. I mean, I guess you could pay people to do it, but you really need to do your homework. And so really, I think the thing too is, what are they giving? I pride myself. I've always given way more than I've asked for because I know that the person that I'm meant for, and I hope that separates me from even thinking that like I'm trying to be a guru, is I am really there to help the person. And if I can't, I'm not going to work with them. I'm not going to work with them just to take their money. I've learned that as well. But I think the people that are out there giving valuable content, that they're giving it away, that they're really there to help, and just not doing these mass high ticket. I think you probably have noticed there's been a huge shift since AI came out, that we have a lot of new gurus because they're going to ChatGPT and they're typing in short. And let me tell you, I love ChatGPT. I have ADHD and it helps me hone it in so much better, but I still go back and I make sure I put my knowledge, my skill set, all of my past mistakes and learning lessons in there as well. So I just think that when people go to LinkedIn or I'm on all of them. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Facebook. I'm on pretty much every platform except for Twitter, which is now known as X. I'm off because I can't do the politics. So I think the thing that I would really stress everyone to look for is, what is the person asking you? So if they just send a message and they're like, hey, I can help your business. I think what even cracks me up more is I get a lot of people saying, hey, I can help you. And they do the exact same thing as I do, but they don't tell me how. So my best response is tell me one thing that you would do differently, because I haven't even had a conversation with you. So I'd love to know what you're going to do differently. And normally I never hear from any of them. So don't be scared to call someone out when they're sending you these messages. If you're actively looking for a coach in any situation, whether it be fitness and wellness and health, ask them to show you. The proof's in the pudding, as I say. So ask them to show you what they can do.
But people know that for me, if you get a message on LinkedIn or Facebook, it's me. There is nobody else. There is me. If it's your birthday, yeah, you're going to get a message from me just saying, hey, happy birthday. I just want to let you know I'm thinking about you. Because I believe that, like, I even asked for your mailing address, because I always send out thank you cards. Not for any kind of reason, but even Steve D. Sims, I'm actually having his son come on in an hour. Even he talks about, people don't even get cards anymore. People don't get thank you cards anymore. And I send them out just saying, hey, thank you. I appreciate you. And I'm not trying to get anything, but I'm trying to build generational relationships. And I think that's the reason why I'm a little bit different than other people, because I want to build a relationship. That's why I follow Brandy Hollaway on every single platform, because I want, from this day on, I want to support you and I want to give you 10 times more than I'll ever get from you. And I think that's a difference between now, because now you have a lot of, AI and fake people out there. But I think you can also stand apart if you are even more real and vulnerable. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. And, I use automations, but that's the thing I always try to remind everyone is that if you build an automation and you build it in your brand tone and your brand voice, and it's really truly just for me, it's to get rid of the tire kickers, right? It's to get rid of the price shoppers, because I want to make sure that I'm getting people that are actually ready to go in. If they're not, I have something for them. I still have something I can give them, but I'm not going to sit and spend an hour with someone who's just still not sure that they actually want to commit to moving forward in their business. And I think as far as the special touch, so for me, I do the same thing, a little different. Every time I'm on a Zoom or a live, I have an app called Thanks that's attached to it, and it sends me a notification, and it'll do it today, and it'll say, hey, you just finished this podcast. Would you like to send Richard a thanks or anything like that? And so I send a cup of coffee, or I send, hey, go to have lunch on me or whatever. And so I send that out and they can redeem it, wherever they are. So I love those special touches. I do think it helps build the relationship. You can add the little personal notes, and I do think it goes a long way. And a lot of people aren't willing to do it. And I think that's why I've been able to grow so quickly the last 2 years, the way that we have, because I've maintained that. As much as we use integrations, as much as we use AI and systems and processes, people know that they can get access to me still.
And, once I started sending thank you cards, now when I go to somebody's house, I always look on the refrigerator, because I remember, like, when I was growing up, the special cards would get hung on the refrigerator.
Yeah.
But I've seen so many people that I've sent cards to now, they actually take pictures that is hanging up on their refrigerator. When people come, who sent you a thank you card? Oh, that's just Richard from, Vertical Momentum. And I think that's, like I said, that sets us apart. But I do have to write everything down because I do have a traumatic brain injury. Tell me the story about the grizzly before before we even get started. I don't want to forget.
So my uncle told me this story a long time ago, and I don't even remember where I was working because gosh, I mean, I skipped over many, many odd jobs that I had. I worked in a record store, I worked in a jewelry store at one time. I've done all the things as far as sales. And I had a job I was having a difficult time, and he said, here's what you need to know, and you can sell anything to anybody. And he's like, you're selling yourself. And he's like, and you're selling to one of four animals. So it's based on disc testing, but this is just really easier to remember. So you have a grizzly, an owl, a parrot, and a koala. So a grizzly is someone that they know what they want, how they want it, when they want. You're not going to tell them any different. So if you yourself are a grizzly and you go to sell to a grizzly, it's probably not going to be a good dynamic. Now we possess all four of those. So really you need to think about what's going to set this grizzly at ease, make it feel like it's their idea, make them know that they're making that decision. And then of course the others, like the parrot, they're the life of the party. They like the jokes. They like the fun. They typically wear bright colors. So matching that energy. Your owl are the ones that ask you for a million details. They want all the backup information. So we all know who they are. You need to have that ready for them, for that type of person that you're selling to. And the koala is the one that's a little nervous, a little shy. They need you to hold their hand. We all have those hand holders. We got to kind of lead them into the thing. So when you begin to start to talk to someone, you can recognize these attributes pretty much right off the bat when you're talking to them. And then you can shift so that a lot of people have been taught to mirror. And I don't think that's a good approach in sales. I do think that you should learn these four qualities and figure out which animals would really seal the deal together in the best way.
Well, and that's interesting because my first job was actually selling timeshares, and that's got to be the hardest job ever because
Yeah.
I heard a lot of no's. But once, like you said, once you start, knowing, okay, well, this kind of person sitting across from me, then I can tailor it to them. Like I know that if I have an engineer, I better have all the analytical answers. But if I got a mother with three young kids, pretty sure that they're probably going to want to go to Disney at some point. So yeah, you have to kind of like get to know the person across from you. But also for me, like I was taught by an older man, because the first 6 months in timeshare, I didn't sell one. And I was getting my butt kicked like 3 times a day. And he was in a deeding office like 2-3 times a day. And I didn't know how he did. And he got there 2 hours early every morning, read every newspaper. So he knew a little bit about everything. But the smartest thing he did was when he would go up to get a cup of coffee, he would touch the person on the shoulder and say, "Can I get you something to drink?" And once he did that, and once he let them in their personal space, it was a wrap. Because he knew that, if I treat these people like I would treat my own family, and I can help them out as a family, then I'm going to do well. But I think a lot of times if somebody says in the auto business, somebody comes in, you're going to want to sell them the highest brand car and they don't even need that car. Like if I got a family of 5. If I show up in a car dealership, don't show me the 2-seater because it's not going to do me any good. So talk about that, knowing who your customer is and helping them out fix their problem, not yours.
Yeah, so this is something that I'm super passionate about, and actually, my new brand, which is Ditch Your Overwhelm with Molly Morocco, this is something we really focus on with everyone because the old school of thinking is the demographic, right? So it's what's their age, how much do they make, where do they live, are they married or single, and a lot of people focus on that, but obviously because of traffic, so we're really looking at taking that person through an experience based on what we think we want. And the only way to find that out is to really do your research and do your homework. So, a lot of like you just talked about that behavioral aspect. So body language is a big part of it. I think they say it's like 80% of it. 20% is actually what you say. 80% is your body language. So really practicing that when you're speaking to people, when you're beginning to take that journey. So we segment this out. So we're looking at, who do you need to be to create awareness? Who do you need to be to attract that person? So actually have them coming in as a lead. Then when they're a lead, you're a whole new person because you need to nurture them. And then from nurture to conversion, then you're another person. And so really, this is why I want everybody to understand you have all four of those personalities we talked about earlier. But to really be good at what you're doing, to truly show that person you can help them, focus on the psychographic, focus on the experience that you're taking them through, instead of saying, hey, I had this thing I'm selling, do you want it? Because that's what a lot of people are doing. And so that's why you're probably not seeing the leads, the sales, the conversions that you want to see. And so we really put a big focus on that first part. What are you saying? How are you saying it? And if you're doing something like this where you're live on camera, what's your energy like?
Yeah, and a lot of it for what I do, I think you're like my 1100 interview. For me, I don't I don't want to be the star of the show. I know what I know already. I don't know what you know, so that's what I want to know. And so that's and I guess you have to learn to be what you're good at. If like I know that I can't be another Gary V. That's not me. That's not my thing. But for me, people know that I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be open. I'm going to care about them. But I'm also going to be real, And I think that's what I love about you is you're real about your struggle. So when you see somebody that's trying to come back up and trying to come back, they're not just seeing that person on a pedestal. They realize, wait a minute, they struggle too. So, a lot of people don't like to be vulnerable, especially on camera. But for me, I think that's my superpower. That's, somebody like Ed Milet, that's his superpower because he could talk about business, but he'll also talk about, you know, growing up with an alcoholic dad. And, once you get somebody, like you said, 80% of the time, people will never remember what you say, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. So talk about selling, because one thing I noticed, like you said, everybody's using Chat GPT. I use Chat GPT every day, and I love it. But I use it as a tool, not as a crutch. But I also use it with emotion, and I think a lot of people don't sell with emotion. Like for me, if I'm going to pull my credit card out and buy something, you could tell me all the bells and whistles, but if there's no emotion in it, I'm not buying anything. So please talk about, talk about, selling and writing copy with emotion.
Yeah, so I'll be radical honest. Writing copy is not like really one of my superpowers. I love to write. That's why I teamed up with Molly. That's why we make such a dynamic team because that is her strong suit. For me, it's really helping the people understand why they want to sell this thing because the way that it typically goes when we're working with someone is that you're super passionate about something and you decided you wanted to start a business and you're like, oh, I'll use myself as an example. When I started my first personal training business, oh, I love personal training, I'm going to start a business. Well, I didn't think about having to attract someone, having to onboard someone, having to advertise, how to market the business. There's a lot of other things that come in that we don't think about. So with writing the copy, the best advice that I could give, and of course I've learned tremendous amounts from Molly. I actually have somewhere I have uh this is probably a book that I learned a lot from. I don't know if you've ever read this one or not.
I got that sitting on
So
my counter. Yes, I do.
yeah. So Jim Edwards is, genius. But I think the thing is that you really need to study. And like you said, these are other gurus and they're great at what they do, but you can't copy what they're doing. Copywriting, that I feel like people almost take it literal sometimes. They go and find something really good. And instead of taking it as inspiration, they just literally copy it. They don't even change anything. They don't put their brand voice. They don't put their brand tone. And what we have to remember is a lot of people, like as far as your brand tone, is that if you go almost on any platform and you see anything from me, you're probably going to recognize pretty quickly if you've been following me that it's me. I speak in a very specific way. Yes, we have the color palette. Yes, we have the logo, but that's not your brand. Your brand is that immediate feeling they get when they see it and when they leave, right? It's the experience. It's how they feel about you. It's what they're going to say to others about you. And also that what comes along with that when you're writing that copy, like you were saying, is are you going to be able to take them on experience and give them that moment? There has to be something in there. And some of us are scared to trigger or to hit a pain point or to really bring out that emotion. But if you don't, how are you going to stand out from anyone else that's offering the same things that you are? They're not buying that thing. They could buy that thing from 100 other people. One of my favorite terms when it comes to writing your copy and standing out is Marty Newmeyer, and he's like, hit them where they ain't. It's like a baseball term. And it's like you have to find that white space where no one else has really hit that one little mark. And that's where you have to go and live. You got to find the hungry crowd that's hungry for your specific, the way that you're writing it, the way that you're saying it, the way that you're doing things, because everyone is not your client. So write it for the person that you really want to work with.
And I just got done devouring the last two books by Mr. Alex Hermosi. And something that I really got out of the whole two books was the riches are in the niches. And I guess that goes back to old school, like Mr. Jim Rohn said, if you're marketing to everybody, you're marketing to nobody. So please talk a little bit about, finding your niche. Cause like one of my mentors is John Lee Dumas, and he's got one of the most biggest podcasts in the world. He is my mentor. And he told me, you got to go an inch wide, but a mile deep finding your perfect avatar, or else you're just going to be, like in the military, you can either pray or spray, or you could be a sniper. So I'd rather be a sniper. So talk about finding your perfect avatar and your niche, because that's where the riches are at, is in a niche.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. I think a lot of people get kind of surprised. I think for me, this is where I go with the client. And I think it depends on what you're offering. I think that for specific types of products and services, it makes sense for you to really niche down and go into that one specific area. And like I said, just drive deep into that. Now, when I go through an avatar, defining, we actually have a blueprint that we use. And so we go through the typical demographics, the psychographics, and we peel that onion until it's gone. I mean, we really do take a deep dive into that, but it's not always necessarily about the person. I'll just keep going back to what are they hope for? So for me specifically, I don't have an industry specifically as a niche, but I have a person that knows that they're at a place where they don't want to do all the things, but they know they need to be done. And so they're ready to delegate and outsource. So for me, it's a solopreneur who's ready to outsource and delegate. That is my niche. Now, it's not a specific industry because I can do that with anyone. I think the big thing is when you're getting ready to niche down, a lot of people get scared because they're like, oh, well, like for a realtor, I was like, look, if you're going to target women that are getting divorced that need to downsize or get a new home, or men that are getting divorced and they need to downsize, whichever it is. And they're like, well, then a family is not going to come to me. That's not true. And that's really not a rational thought process. The goal is that when you write that copy and you're targeting that niche, they know it's for them. There is no confusion, because as we also know with the old cliche, a confused audience doesn't buy, right? You have to be very clear. And now, because of the instant gratification, because of the short form content, you've got to get to that point really quickly. You got to call that person out. You've got to use that hook. You've got to use that information for them to know this is for me. I want to keep coming back and consuming this information. So I think niching down is really for just whatever that means for you. Make sure that you're calling that person out based on experience and emotion, and not just, a 35-year-old woman who makes $100K a year and drives this car and these are her hobbies. I don't think that's really going to cut it anymore as far as niching down.
Okay, well, like when me and JLD sat down, we figured out that my perfect avatar is a 45-year-old male, father of three, veteran, brand new business owner. And for me, I call him Craig. And actually, in my phone, I actually have a big picture of some guy, some random family in my phone. So every time I go on camera and have a show, I'm talking to Craig. So I want to make sure that that's who I'm talking to every time I speak. That's why I wanted to have you come on here, because a lot of guys and gals, once we get out of the military, we have to rise up again. And a lot of us are in the ashes because not only did we lose our career, we lose a camaraderie, we lose friendships. Now we have nowhere to start, and we are in the ashes, and we need to rise again. So first, can you tell us about, because I know I love your story, by the way. I love everything about you, and I'm so grateful for you. But for me, 9/11 was my come to Jesus moment. That was my, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And that's when my life change was on 8:48 that morning. So talk to us about what your I'm sick and tired of sick and tired. Bring us back to the exact moment when you had enough.
Oh Lord. Okay. Yeah. I'll try to do this without getting emotional because this was a big, I remember, I will never forget this moment. So when I was going through my divorce, as I mentioned, and I had infant 3-year-old, I was trying to figure things out. Didn't know what to do. I'm pretty honest with everyone. And I tell them like, I spent most of my days figuring out how I could drive my car into a wall and make it look like an accident. So I was just at my lowest of lows. And I developed a deep anxiety disorder. Through all that, I was on medication. And where I live in Virginia, you have to drive through tunnels that go underwater to get anywhere. We have
Yeah.
7 cities that are connected by tunnels and bridges, and you have to go over these bridges. Well, because of course, after going to therapy and recognizing my sense of loss of control in my life, I needed to feel in control of anything else that I could. And so getting stuck in a tunnel, not being able to move, it would cause major anxiety, getting stuck on a bridge. And when I say stuck, sometimes you're literally sitting there for 30 minutes if it's jammed up and you're like, I'm stuck here. I feel like I can't breathe. I can't get out. And so between that and just going through the trauma and then having, just the daily thoughts, the ideation of suicide, one day I was listening to Tony Robbins. And I'm not even remember. I don't remember exactly what talk it was, but he was telling a story about a guy that had a motorcycle accident. He loved motorcycles, but because of the accident, he just didn't want to get back on. And the guy was telling a story about how he eventually got back on. And of course, the moral of the story was, you got to get your ass back out there and you got to do the things. And I was sitting at the tunnel, and many days I would make my brother ride with me because I didn't want to go through the tunnel by myself. I did not want to be stuck by myself. And that particular day I was by myself. And I remember I got close and I could feel the anxiety coming. And I was listening to Tony Robbins. And as I stopped to get ready to go in, I was just like, screw it. I can't keep doing this. I'm never going to get anywhere if I keep letting this get the better of me, because this is a fear that's in my head. Physically, I'm okay. Physically, I'm going to be okay. But I've got to quit thinking this. I rolled down my windows. I screamed at the top of my lungs. I drove through that tunnel. And literally since then, I've never looked back, and it's nothing but a thing to do anything now. And I don't know that I'm fearless, but I can tell you that hardly anything phases me anymore because I keep reminding myself, you're going to be okay. You're not physically in danger. Like you're going to be all right. And so that was just, I don't know the exact date that I even was. I just remember where I was, and I remember listening to Tony Robbins, rolling down my windows. People thought I was a crazy woman, and I'm screaming and crying and driving through that tunnel. And then literally it was done. I got off my medication within those few months. I started, coming up. I wasn't thinking about ending my life anymore. And obviously since then things have been wonderful. They've been great. And I've been growing and learning and healing.
But now because the reason why I wanted to ask, because I've gone through the same exact thing. I am a suicide attempt survivor. But I had somebody that does all of Tony's and all of Gary's bookings. And I said, well, why do people keep showing up to see Tony Robbins, Gary Vaynerchuk, year after year, fill the same seats? He said, because only 3% of the people are actually going to act upon what they are taught. So you were one of the 3% of the people, because millions of people bought that same audio book, bought that same thing, but never acted upon it. So what were some of your first steps when you decided, all right, I'm sick and tired of sick and tired. Now it's time for me. Now it's time for me to rise up from the ashes and become the Brandy that I was meant to be. What couple steps did you first start taking when you first started?
Yeah, the very first thing I did was got a mentor and got a coach. I was broke. I mean, I was broker than broke. I mean, at that time when I lost everything, I actually went back, and I was trying to train. I started a meal prep business. I was doing anything I could to make money at that time. But I got a mentor and I got a coach. And I remember the first few times that I met with my mentor, and he would say, you're working at a level 6 today. So what is it going to take to get you to a 10? Because he knew what I was capable of, even though I felt like I was pushing myself. And I think really the thing that shifted for me was getting that and realizing that sometimes you really don't realize the stories you're telling yourself, how deeply ingrained those stories are, that you think you're actually working at a 10, and you need to be at a 10 most of the time to go get the things you want. I am not a fan of the hustle and grind 24/7. I believe in self-care. I believe you've got to do those things. But the people that are telling you you can do this in 5 easy steps in 90 days and make them, 10,000, 20, 50,000, $1 million, they're full of it. So I think that you just really, for me, like I said, that moment was the mentor calling me out, and then discovering systems changed my life. Discovering systems truly changed my life because I was just winging it up until then. I had my own system, I guess, per se, but it was horrible and it kept me in a very broke stage. I mean, I was not making enough money to hardly live on for years, even though I called myself a business owner, and I wasn't growing either. And that's a telltale sign. There has to be some growth somewhere. You can't, if you're just staying at the same level. So those were the two pivotal moments for me, was systems. And since then I've fallen in love with strategies and systems. I love helping people go down that path and understand that part, it'll change your world, personally and professionally.
And I love that. And like as you see, I'm writing stuff down that I want to talk about because um, our podcast was pretty successful last year. We've had some amazing guests: Steve Sims, David Meltzer, the authors of Rich Dad Poor Dad. They all been on, but I wasn't as successful as I am now because of something you said. I thought I was working at a 10 when I was really working at a 2, because I didn't realize there's a difference between being busy and being productive. I didn't know that there was a big difference. Like now, if I don't have a scheduler, I'm lost. I love Calendly. Calendly saves my life.
Yeah.
But now I schedule everything. Like when we get off and I have my next interview, I'm going to see Disney on Ice with my daughter and my wife and my kids because that's my priority. God, family, business. If it's not one of those three, I don't have time for it. I don't have the bandwidth. But it's something, because somebody challenged me. They said it was December 31st last year. He said, I want you to pick two words for the year, which I thought, that's bullcrap. I'm like, I don't believe in it. I said, but I'm going to challenge you because I don't think it works. So the words I picked were intention and attention. And just by making sure that everything I do is intentional and making sure I get attention, this year we're up almost at 1 million downloads and 5 million social media impressions, just because everything I do is intentional. So talk about that, being intentional, even when you wake up in the morning, even your nighttime, what you do before you go to bed and what you do when you first wake up is going to set you up for success or failure during your day. So talk about intention.
So yeah, I think it's interesting because I know there's this notion out there that you have to do a specific thing when you wake up, and there's the 5-hour day, and then there's the 5 a.m. Miracle morning thing out there. And I don't work that way because I'm a single mom with 2 kids, and so every day can be different. But I do set the intention to make sure specific things happen because I know that's going to put me in the best place to have the energy I need for my children and for my business and for my clients. And it's interesting because, if you talk to a lot of people, they're going to tell you that I'm probably a little harsh or I'm a little cold. The reason that they're going to tell you that, though, and I always explain to them, is this is all out of love. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you want to hear, but I'm also not going to tell myself that either. I'm going to tell myself what I need to hear. And so what I typically do in the mornings is, and I joke about this, I make reels about this all the time, but I take my daughter to school and I sit in my car in complete silence. And this is something I learned. Deepak Chopra talks about it in the 7 spiritual laws of success. And I think the most important thing you can do to be intentional is you need to give yourself some silent time before you start your day. And when I say silent, I mean no radio, don't even be around people. Like find somewhere. So for me, it's my car, and I sit in the car and I think about how do I want to show up today? How am I feeling today? And I've had days where maybe I slept 2 hours for whatever reason. I don't know. And or something happened the day before and I'm still feeling like, not great. And I know that if I show up, I'm not going to feel good. What can I do to change that? And then I have systems in place to change that. So sometimes it's going for a walk and listening to, I love Brendan Burchard. It always puts me in that great space. You mentioned David Meltzer. I love David Meltzer. So there's a lot of things I'll go. I like Alex Hormozzi's the podcast, The Game. So there are things I'll go listen because I know it's going to put me in that right mindset that I need to be in to show up, depending on how I want to show up. So I think the most important thing about being intentional is get off of autopilot and know that you're going through your day and that you actually are doing it with intention. You're not on autopilot, just randomly doing things and like, oh, it's 5 o'clock now. And I guess I did some things. Like, go do the damn thing that you want to do and do it intentionally and have systems in place when you're not quite there to show up the way that you want to and the way that, for me, my children deserve for me.
Okay. Now, one thing I want to say, because my wife, I call her my bride. She's my best friend. I've known her 37 years. She's still the most beautiful girl in the world to me, but she doesn't take any shit either. She comes from a big Italian family, but she handles all the business and everything. And I think that there should be more female CEOs, CFOs out in the world, because in my opinion, this is just my opinion, a lot of them, 99% of them, are way more detail oriented than a lot of guys are. Because anybody that can, like my wife, has a business, has our business, works full time, takes care of 3 kids and this big kid here, and still has food on the table, so that she knows how to time block. She knows how to balance the budget. So, talk about, why you think that a lot of companies should start hiring more female CEOs and CFOs.
I don't know if it'll be the answer you want to hear. I don't even like actually having to say that there should be a female CEO or a male CEO. I think that the best CEO should be hired. But I think that, obviously I was born in the 70s and going through the 80s and the 90s and the good old boys club, as I used to call it. And they wanted more good old boys in that business with them. And that's why they didn't hire the females. It had nothing to do, with their knowledge and their skill set and their education. So I think that there's definitely, obviously we've seen a big push. One thing I'm trying to remind myself is I don't even want to call myself a CEO anymore, because I'm not an executive officer over a lot of other people. I don't even have employees. I have partners, I have collaborations, and I have a team that I outsource to of 50 other, VAs that know my business. So I found my own way to make that happen. I would love to see more women pushing for their rights to be in those places. I would like to see the archaic thinking of, that good old boys club, go away. I think there has been a big drive and a great push for women. I actually have a local group, pre-COVID, I ran all the time, called Girls on Fire. And that's what it was about, was like helping women understand that you can do these things, but you're going to have to, like you just said, you can't take any shit. You got to set boundaries, and you have to know what you deserve, because other people, even if they do know it, why do you think they're going to fight for you? You need to fight for yourself. You need to go make the things happen. And so I love the idea of that. I just think, don't let the title define you. And if someone else doesn't see your worth, also don't let that extinguish your fire from going and doing what you need to do.
Okay. Now, when I lost 80% of my vision 3 years ago, so my hearing's got a lot better. Not according to my wife, but I hang on certain words when I have guests. And something you said it 3 times already. I'm going to paraphrase, because nobody is coming to save you. And I tell everybody that, like, I believe in my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but in me, I'm realizing that either success or failure, it's all an inside job. So talk to us, because you said it a couple of times now, and I want to hit on a little bit. What do you mean by nobody's coming to save you? It's all up to you.
So I went on a retreat for business professionals many, many, many years ago. I was in San Francisco for 5 days, and this is where I decided to really take it on, almost brand it on my soul. Because as a child, I went through some horrific trauma. I was molested as a child. I was kidnapped. I went through some pretty crazy things. And I always, that's where a lot of that fear came up, and I was scared of things. And I just realized that all the crazy things that happen to us, a lot of us carry that into adulthood, and we're waiting for somebody to tell us it's okay. We're waiting for permission. We're waiting for validation. We're waiting for, to make sure that, well, if I leap, is someone going to reach out their hand and grab me? So we're waiting to be saved. And at the end of the day, you're the only one that really knows how you can save yourself. You're the only one that really knows what's going to make you happy and joyful and abundant and peaceful and all of those things. And so I harp on that. I say that a lot, because not only a reminder for myself, but to remind everyone else, it's like, be your own superhero, save yourself. Once again, you have everything that you need. And so throughout my life, when, you know, things go bad, I have to be accountable for that. Even if it technically wasn't my fault, I got to save myself. I got to be accountable. I got to keep moving forward. And once again, game changer. That's what has put me in a much different place than I was 3, 4, 5 years ago.
And don't you believe? Because like I said, I've been following you now for over 20 years, and now I see that your mess has become your message. And you say it on a lot of different podcasts, and I say it all the time. One day your mess will become your message. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So now, you know, you've been in business how long now?
So 7 years with this business.
So if somebody, Joe Snuffy, gets out of the military November 1st, 2023, what would be the top 3 pieces of advice you would give them if they're starting a business or wanted to start a business today on November 1st, 2023?
First thing I would say is screw the business plan and make sure that you have a vision that's beyond just making money, because if you make it about the money, you're going to be miserable. And really just flesh that out and know what that looks like 1 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 years down the road. The second thing is to outsource or delegate to professionals when it comes to the things that you don't know anything about, because that's probably going to lead to failure. So the bookkeeping, the accountant, the marketing, know your numbers. I mean, it's all about all the numbers, all of the things that you need to hire, because we typically don't know that. And I think the third thing is that, once again, for what I've seen, is that go in fully committed. Like, you can't half-ass it and expect you're going to get results. So this old school, thinking, this old way of thinking, and I'm going to say this, I'm 51, and I will say, I even run into people younger than me, and it blows my mind when they're starting a business that they thought they were just going to start a business, make a couple of social media posts, and people were going to come running and flocking to their business. So there is a complete strategy and system that needs to be in place. So hire the professionals, know what your vision is, know that vision will change, but the path will be the same. Like, you're going to stay working towards that same goal, but it's going to change how you do that. Hire the professionals and create a system and work that system until you start seeing the numbers that you need to see to grow and scale your business.
And I love it. So I followed you on all your social media. Your LinkedIn is fire, by the way. I just wanted to throw that out
Thank
there.
you.
Yeah, I even love your TikToks, because I actually find myself just watching and just chuckling sometimes. I'm like, I get it. I totally get it. But now I've also seen you on some high level podcasts, and I'll let you mention them. I'm not going to mention them. So, how do we find you? How do we support your mission? And how can we find out a little bit more about you?
Yeah, so really what I would love everyone to do is remember Brandy Hollaway, Holla. If you just type that in, because my last name is spelled a little bit differently than normal. It's not Holloway. You can find me on Facebook with that name, LinkedIn with Brandy Hollaway, Instagram with my name, and my TikTok is with my name. So just look up my name, but remember, it's Holla, as I say, like holla. And also the new brand, Ditch Your Overwhelm. If you type that in anywhere, you're going to find that as well, which is my new brand. And that's truly what we're helping people do is whatever's overwhelming you, we can help you as a little or as much as you need. But if you really want to move forward, you can't enjoy life and live life to the fullest if you're constantly overwhelmed and stressed out with all the things that business brings.
I love it. So, like I said, I want to say thank you so much. I've been following you, like I said, over 20 years because I've been from the health and fitness industry all the way into the business. And I just want to say, I'm proud of everything you're doing, and you are truly a world changer.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Thank you for having me on. This has been amazing.
It was my honor. And guys, as you know, you guys probably can't see my T-shirt, but it says I wear the same T-shirt every day. Yes, I got more than one, but it says "Today I decide," and I got that from Joel Osteen because I believe that we have a choice to either be a victim or be a victor. So, guys, if you're listening to this and you're part of VM Nation, you guys are victors. And if you're struggling today, guys, make sure you choose to be the victor and not the victim. I love you guys. Make sure you check us out. This episode will be live on our social media at verticalmomentumpodcast.com. Brandy, thank you so much and have an amazing week. And I can't wait to see what you got coming up next.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, remember vertical momentum. The only way to go is but up. And in about 2 hours, Henry D. Sims, Steve Sims' son, is going to be talking about his dad. And we're going to be getting some information about his dad you'll probably never, ever even think about. All right, guys, have an amazing week. Keep kicking ass. And remember, vertical momentum. The only way to go is but up. I love you guys. Brandy, have a great week.